Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Eric.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Jeff, we are on the precipice of the 4th annual attempt to kill ourselves, the 12 days of podcasts.
I mean, it is the dumbest decision that we have ever undertaken. We keep doing it every single year.
Who suggested this in the first place?
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It was my idea.
What is the point?
I felt like a lot of people are traveling over the holidays, and we should super serve our audience because a lot of people,
good Samaritan,
a lot of people don't have podcasts to listen to on planes. A lot of people don't have
entertainment while they're home, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, your family can be annoying. Maybe you want to tune out for an hour and a half.
How about the people who are working during the holidays who need something to get their minds off of the fact that they're working over the holidays?
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah. So, by the way, shout out to Trav Dave, who, speaking of the holidays, was like, hey, are you guys getting Chinese food on Thanksgiving night? And the answer is no.
The answer is no. That's a Christmas thing.
This is an American holiday. So, in any event, the whole point of the 12 Days of Podcast is that we put 12 podcasts together leading up to Christmas, 12 podcasts in 12 days.
People get it. It's in the name. We don't have to explain this.
Every year, I think we've elevated. We've had a nice mix, a nice collection of behind-the-scenes people, friends, big-time celebrities, and they've all come over to our apartment, and here we are once again, Jeff. And here's the funny thing for everyone out there who's like, oh, you know what? 4 years in, the guys are getting better at what they do.
No. You know how hard it is to do 12 episodes?
It's so hard. And this year, by the way.
Oh, wait. You sound like you're going to oh, boo-hoo.
No, definitely not.
Boo-hoo.
No, but yes.
Yeah.
We put a lot of work into this. This is our everything. The crazy thing is that I think people think it's easy. And even when we might think that we're doing a good job, when we start planning months in advance, things just don't go our way.
Oh, no. Everybody says no. Every single person says no. Nobody wants to do anything near Christmas.
There was one big star who turned us down twice this time. Like twice.
It's been more than twice. Come on.
No. Twice for this specific run. He has been like, yes, no. Yes, no.
He keeps saying, yeah, he'll do it. And then he won't do it.
What a frustration.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's not doing it this round, but 12 other people are. And, or maybe 15?
15 people are?
Yeah.
How do we do 15 in... Oh.
Yeah, you get it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, revisit this later on. Find the Easter egg for Christmas.
Yeah.
So I guess the first one drops this week.
Yeah.
First one drops this Friday, the 13th.
Ooh, spooky. Ooh.
And it's going to be a big episode. We got a video with that episode, should the video be done at that point.
I hope so.
I hope so, too. God damn, we're putting a lot of work into this. Okay, I don't want to sound like I'm being a baby about this.
Oh, no, it's already too late.
And I don't want to sound like
you're 5 minutes into this complaint.
Trying to take credit for everything. But I do want people to know that this really is a two-person operation, that we do all the bookings, we do all the editing, we do all the commercial reads, we do, when you buy a T-shirt, we personally write a note and then wrap it up and take it down to the post office to send it out to you.
Hold on.
Yes.
If it's just me and you, then who's the third set of footprints in the sand?
Jeff, this is the season.
Nice.
So it's Dan. It's our brother Dan. Shout out to Dan.
That's a better answer than I thought you would have had. I thought you were just gonna just
say
off,
Jesus.
Just trail off into nothing and be like, it is.
Yeah. It is what it is.
The man above.
Jeff, this is the last podcast before the 12 days, and we wanted to give you guys a really good one. Jeff, who's on the podcast today?
Singer-songwriter Dermot Kennedy from outside Dublin, Ireland.
Shout out to Dermot. We didn't know him personally. A lot of people come through. They're friends of ours, or we've known them in the circles we run in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this guy.
Dermot is his name.
Yeah, I forgot in the 30 seconds.
This guy.
No, Dermot is, he was pitched to us as somebody who would be very left of field for us. Somebody who might not make sense for the podcast, but in listening to his music and in hearing his story, what we knew of it, we were just like, okay, like this guy is really great. I think really great things for him. I think that 2020 is going to be a huge year in terms of him crossing over to this American audience.
And then actually having him sit down with us to hear his story, it is very specific to him, of course, but it's not unlike what we all go through. And I think that's what we try to find in everyone's story is the commonalities.
Sure.
So it's a fascinating journey that he has made across the ocean to us and across the United States and throughout his career, really from playing on the sidewalks back at home in Ireland to selling out bigger and bigger venues. And he does drop a little hint, a little Easter egg,
Christmas egg
in this podcast about where he might play next. So look out for that. Look out for Dermot's music. He's worked with our friend Mike Dean, amongst others. Jeff, when do you want to get into this?
Right after I tell people to subscribe below.
Smash season.
Smash that subscribe button.
Jeff, when do you want to get into it?
Right now.
Yo, what up? It's Eric, a.k.a. World Billiard Championships, a.k.a. Hitting the Mangles.
Yo, what up? It's Jeff, a.k.a. Irish Cream, a.k.a. the Euro.
Yeah.
Dermot Kennedy, singer-songwriter.
Yeah, it's your third favorite podcast, A Waste of Time with ItsTheReal. Dermot, what's happening?
I haven't spoken to you guys for a second.
It's a little bit different energy.
Yeah, I like it.
Welcome to the Upper West Side.
Thank you.
Welcome to New York. You were just telling us that tomorrow morning you have to wake up super early because you're doing a morning TV gig and
Like 4:30.
Oh,
Have to be
man.
there at 5:30
and you don't perform until.
to sing at 9.
So what do you do in between?
Sit around.
Yeah, is it possible to
Eat
sleep?
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because you can't sleep because then your voice falls asleep.
Yeah.
Right? So you warm up at like 7. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just
Sing a song
unnatural.
once. It's
Yeah.
like- I get it though. TV's important.
I mean, you could lip sync.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm not going there. No. Nah, yeah, it's a thing. It's been presented to me and I'm like, I'm never doing that.
Have you ever?
Nah.
Yeah.
No, I never have. Honestly, I never. I mean, I'll say I never will. To
Yeah.
be honest, it's bad. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot to ask for an early morning gig, I feel like.
It's crazy. I've heard it's mad. You know, right? I've heard about artists that have live shows in the can, right?
Yeah.
And so then they go and play like arenas and mime.
Oh.
But
Do
what
you
like
guys-
a
have you-
boring thing to do for an hour and a half, right?
I know, yeah, but imagine there's people all there paying to see it, and,
Right.
And this hilariously perfect thing comes out here.
Yeah.
It's like
You're in town for how long?
just 2 days.
And you've been on the road for how long?
Oh man, I don't know. Like I took a break here in Brooklyn for like a couple of months to make the album at the beginning of this year. But
Yeah.
past that, the last 2 years I've just been touring.
Yeah, like where do you have mail sent?
Nowhere. No. Our
You subscribe to
photographer-
no magazines?
Yeah. Our photographer got locked out of her bank account yesterday, and
Oh.
they were like, "We're gonna send you a new code," and she was like, "This is no good. I live on a bus."
Yeah, to where?
Yeah, basically.
So you sleep on a bus?
Sleep on a bus. Yeah.
In the
yeah.
coffins?
Yeah.
Oh, how is
You'd be
that?
surprised. It's like 10-hour sleeps. It's good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, something happens. It's like your mechanical.
The rocking
mother.
sort of
Yeah.
like-
Yeah,
helps
but
you.
also like there's absolutely no light in there, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's pretty scary. Like you could wake up at 4 a.m. and you're going pretty fast, or at least it feels that way, and it's very unsettling. And your mind can go crazy and be like, "We are veering off a cliff right now." Yeah.
How often do you wake up in a city and have zero idea where you are?
Yeah, it happens a good bit. Yeah. And it's like, that's probably the weirdest part of your day, because the night previous, you might have been in a venue where literally like thousands of people are screaming and it's the most exciting thing you've ever experienced. And then you just like wake up in a bunk and it's this weird like come down for sure.
What a glorious time on the road.
Yeah. It's like,
This is everything
it's
you
a
dreamed of,
total
yeah.
mix of like incredible moments and then total dips.
Yeah. Do you get used to the food on the road?
I try. It's important.
Yeah.
Like, I think about this all the time. Like, you think about acts like the Rolling Stones and stuff. It's like such crazy lives and lifestyles. But it's like when you do it these days and you're like playing 4 shows in a row and all that, I feel like you can't sort of mess around, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you got to be relatively healthy.
Like
Yeah,
that's
have a
totally like-
routine.
Yeah, if you're gonna do cocaine, you have to do it
Yeah.
in a very
You gotta have a
measured.
day off.
Yeah.
Morning, noon, and night. Yeah.
Just a little bit of coke.
Well, let's go to the very beginning. Where are you originally from?
From Rathcoole in Dublin in Ireland.
Okay. And what was growing up there like?
I mean, it's a small town, and even where I lived was outside that town, so I wasn't even near civilization. It was like forest and fields, basically.
Your closest neighbor was how close?
next door, but
Okay.
then it was us.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
it, like, yeah, we were. It was just us for like quite a way, and yeah, it just. I mean, classic thing of like when you're a kid, you're kind of pissed off because you can't go hang out with all your friends, but also then when it came to writing songs, it was cool because it was this thing. I was constantly inspired by the landscape. I was constantly isolated, so I was constantly kind of able to zone in on it. But yeah, definitely wasn't part of a scene.
Isolated, like you had internet though?
As of like we had bad internet.
Okay,
right, for
yeah.
a long time, and then
So you weren't watching streaming videos?
no,
Yeah.
like yeah, it was that thing
You
of
could
like
get
on
email.
YouTube
Yeah.
where you're like 5 seconds in and the wheel
Yeah,
got
yeah.
pulled up. Yeah.
So how did music get to you?
That's the thing. I think about that quite a bit. It's like, so if I do what I do now, I clearly wasn't influenced by much, you know? Like I wasn't influenced by a scene. I wasn't trying to fit in with friends or anything. So anything that did come out of me was completely organic, right? And hopefully authentic. And I think about that quite a bit. But like the reason I got a guitar was my cousin played. He was in a band. He was brilliant. Yeah, he was playing Dancing in the Moonlight by Thin Lizzy at a party once, and I was just like, that guy, I want to be like that. Yeah.
Wow.
I was like 8 years old. But
What was the first music that you like sought out?
yeah, singer-songwriters like David Gray, Ray LaMontagne, stuff like that. That's what I wanted to be. I really did. I wanted, my dream was to be able to walk out on stages in beautiful theaters and it be silent and I could play with my guitar. And
You wanted to play for nobody.
just sound check. A career of sound checks. I wanted it to be like attentive rooms in big, beautiful, sort of palatial theaters. I was like, if I can do that, I'll be happy. And now I'm doing that, like on the last tour. So it's this crazy thing of having to like reassess what I want to be.
Did you ever like perform like when you were like a kid, like in front of your school and anything?
Yeah, and it was cool because I was super focused on soccer. That's what I want. Like I thought that's what I was going to do for a career. I thought I was going to be a professional footballer. And
Were you good?
I was decent, but I was never going to do it. Like, it's this crazy thing where if you're Irish and you play football, like, you want to... The dream is basically to go to England and play for Man United or Liverpool or whoever.
Yeah.
But, like, it's similar to music in the way that the chances are just so tiny.
Yeah.
Like, you'll go over and you'll have to be, like, the one kid they pick out of thousands.
Yeah.
And, like... 0.5% make it, you know. So it was never going to be a thing, but I loved it. And so that's to say that like whenever I played music, it wasn't my priority yet. So I was super chilled out. Like the president came to school and we had to play a concert for her, and I went first because I just was kind of like, yeah, I'll do this thing. I can have.
How old were you?
Like 11.
Wow.
Yeah, but I was so I was at this point where it didn't feel very important to me yet. So, but I knew I could do it, and it was fun.
You were
But
just blindly
I
confident.
wasn't nervous because I wasn't like, oh, this is my thing. I got to get this right.
Yeah. Did you come from a big family?
No, I got a sister, my mom and dad. They're actually all in New York. Yeah, they're coming to the show tonight.
Wow, that's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Sister is older or younger?
Older, yeah. She's
Yeah.
a doctor.
Wow.
Yeah, she played. Actually, she's the reason I started playing music too. She's a great piano player.
Wait, what happened to the cousin?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Let's get the story straight here. Yeah, yeah. Wait, what? Your sister played music as well?
Plays piano, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
So did you have a piano in the house?
Yeah.
And did you tinker around on it?
Yeah, I'm awful at the piano, but I can write on it. I played live for a bit, but not anymore. It's so nice to sort of get rid of that.
Did you have a teacher come over to the house, or did you go?
No, I just learned it. I play it like with just, I know people can't see, but I play it with like 6 fingers in total. Like I do not play.
Oh, by the way,
bass,
that's
but-
3 on each finger. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like, like 5 on one hand and the other, like one bass note.
Bong. Yeah.
Did you consider yourself good at 11?
No, I did. Like I could see this thing in like my mom and dad where they were clearly excited by the way I could sing or whatever, and but nah, I wasn't thinking about it yet.
And did you have any other friends who played music?
No, none.
So this
My
is
friends
a
to this-
solo gig.
Yeah, and my friends to this day are like zero interest in music. Like they'll go to shows and stuff, but I certainly
Are they
don't hang-
bots?
no, like they like it, but it's kind of like it's just we were all kind of into sport growing up,
Right.
and so I really kind of had to do my own thing to go towards music, and to this day that's kind of cool because I go home and I don't talk about music, I don't talk about the industry. I don't talk about like shows. I just get to sort of talk about nothing. With
but is part of you just seething, just being like, I just want to talk about myself and the great things I've done? You're just like, if only you understood.
Yeah. Well,
the
that's
coffin that I've been sleeping in.
You guys talk to people in the industry all the time. I think one of the most interesting things, and it's sort of like news to me all the time, is how much is involved in like a project working.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. I had no idea. Like production managers, like stage managers, how the amount of work your managers do, all that.
Yeah, bus driver. It's
fascinating.
When you're getting into your teen years, and you're playing music on your own, and you're living far away from, cities. How do you get your music to other ears, or was that just not a concern? You're just like, I'll play for myself, and that's fine.
Yeah, I did that for a long time, and I was very inspired by. I was very inspired by things like The Hobbit, right? So I know that sounds silly, but like if you think about it, I was very inspired by things that sort of took you away from normal life and seemed like fantasy almost, and you could live in those places. And so I was attached to this idea, like I can write a song where I permanently stay there, right? And I thought that was a beautiful thing. And so then around 16, I went into Dublin, into the city, and started playing like open mics and bars and stuff. And my dad would bring me in because I couldn't get into the bars, and I would play. And then maybe I was kind of like, oh, these are all like these seasoned veterans of open mics, and they kind of seem impressed by what I do. So maybe this is the thing. Yeah.
So did they welcome you in?
Yeah, it was lovely. There's some nights in Dublin that are like really nice, and I think it's like in the grand scheme of things, like in Ireland, people nurture songwriters anyway. I think like Van Morrison was on in the food market I was in here yesterday. And I'm just kind of like, oh, there is a lineage of Irish songwriters. So I think there's always this thing, if there's a youngster trying to do it, they'll probably help them out.
Yeah. What's your favorite Irish drinking song?
I would say I'm not sure if it classifies as a drinking song, but there's a song called "The Parting Glass." Actually, yeah, that's it. Glass is in the thing. So. It's a song that they sing often at people's wakes or funerals, and it's basically just like, have a drink for me because I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Is it? It's sad. It's a sad song. Yeah,
it's kind of sad. Actually, no, sorry, it's not. That's like a disservice to the guy who wrote it. It is essentially like, don't be sad because I lived the way I lived, so it's all good.
That's nice. So it's beautiful.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's a video. So the guy that wrote it is called Liam Clancy. There was the Clancy brothers, which are these just like legendary songwriters, and there's a video of a bunch of Irish songwriters singing it at Liam Clancy's funeral, and it's like the most insane thing. Yeah.
So if you're at home and you're playing and you're composing and you're by yourself, how do you, and you don't have necessarily like all of the ways to find other music across the world, how do you learn, song structure, and how do you learn like how long something should be?
Sure.
Like, how does this come to you? Or are you just like playing forever and it's just like, well, that's what a song is?
Yeah. Say like, so Bon Iver were massive in my musical development for me, and so I was writing songs by myself from like 16 to 18, and they were just like rambling, lyrical sort of, like I never thought about structure or anything. Even I didn't think about structure until a couple of years ago, probably. And
but you knew how to tell a story, seemingly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I knew when I was playing at a venue that it worked, that like it's very, very easy to tell when a crowd is on your side, right? and when
they're not booing or throwing things, or
but even like the little,
just sitting silently in the dark, the thing that you wanted.
But even the little details of like, when people are listening because they know they're supposed to, and when they're really with you, and I felt like I had that sometimes, but. Then I went to college and I studied classical music for 3 years. And
did that blow your mind?
Kind of. I was very sort of frustrated because I knew I wanted to do what I do these days, and I wish I could go back. Right? It was all like theory
to the 1700s.
The way I imagine. But I wish I could go back and do that degree and just be like immerse myself in like musical theory and seeing how much of a genius like Mozart actually is, instead of being like, oh, I want to be on my guitar.
Well, but that always comes like with time. It's like I'm a lot smarter now than I was back then.
Yeah. But I did that, and I met a guy there who plays drums for us still, and that kind of sort of exposed me to other people that play music.
Yeah. So tuition was worth that
for sure. Yeah, I did it.
Finding a drummer.
I did it because if this all went backwards, I could be a teacher. To be honest.
Totally.
Yeah.
So did your parents have any sort of expectations? Like, hey, okay, try this for a year, try this for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, your sister is a doctor, and so like there is some sort of
for sure. Yeah, it certainly wasn't a thing of like, all right, cool, go play in the street and figure that out. It was like, there should be a plan in place here.
They did know that that's what you were up to.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And
would they see you?
Sometimes my dad worked around the corner from where I would play in the street.
Yeah.
And so I kept all my gear in his office all the time. And it was cool.
Did you have your guitar case like open?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what was, let's say, the most successful night that you had?
So I figured out that the best way to do it is if you play in sets, right? Because there's people, like a stream of people all day. So I used to play for like 3 hours, and you'd just be exhausted.
That's one song.
Yeah, before I learned about it. But I figured out if you did like 2 40-minute sets, you could essentially like get 2 whole different crowds of people. And then if you're selling CDs for like €10, then you can have good days. Yeah. Wow. I remember the very first day I went, how happy I was directly influenced how successful I was.
Really?
Like, absolutely. Like if I was grumpy there playing, it would be a bad day.
Sure.
For sure. And so the first day I went, I had a really successful day. I think I made like €850 in like an hour and a half. And then I gradually declined.
Oh.
Yeah, because I just got like less and less enthused about it. I don't like it, by the way. I did it because it was better than having a job. But it was very, very clear to me that if I played like Ed Sheeran or like All of Me by John Legend, next thing I knew there'd be a giant crowd of people, and I was like, I don't like this thing of me. It's very sort of like Machiavellian or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
You wanted to play your own creations, not necessarily cover someone else's.
Yeah, but obviously the goal is to make money, and if I play all my own songs, I won't make money.
Yeah.
So it just feels like a cheat code to just like play popular songs that you know well. Yeah.
I
read a thing that said that your worst job involved you dressing up as SpongeBob SquarePants. What was
I worked
that?
for a promotions company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they did this really annoying thing of they'd be like, "Are you around on Sunday?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And so once they know you're around, they're like, "By the way, this."
Once they know you can show up for the job,
yeah. They're like, "By the way, it involves dressing up as SpongeBob," and like, I will insist that whenever you see somebody, I don't know if you guys have ever done anything like that, but if you see somebody in one of those suits, like even the teddy bear things, all like that, to have just so much respect, because it is awful in there. Like the fabric is so abrasive. The suit was huge, and I could only see out of one eye, so I had both my eyes trained out of this one SpongeBob eye. And
what was this for? Did you have to go to like a party?
It was a supermarket. It was like a promo thing. I was like SpongeBob in the supermarket, handing out balloons to kids. And I had this thing of I had to hand out balloons to kids all day because it was like a fun day the supermarket was having. So I'd have to go to a warehouse out the back that had like 5,000 balloons in it and drag them back in and hand them out. And between the warehouse and the shop, I was just letting them go into the sky. I was losing like 200 for every trip I took. It was brilliant.
Did you make more or less than €850?
Oh, much less. Much less. Yeah. So crazy. And then, like, I don't know how people do it. And then it was the closest I ever came to being like, I'm out of here. Like, this is stupid.
So, of course, busking is more like exciting. And,
it's more glamorous than that.
Literally pays off. Yeah.
I feel like I was kind of impatient though, like, and to the point that I was kind of almost like a brat. I was kind of like, I don't know, just like, isn't that nice, like, for me to have that outlet to be able to just busk in the street when all my friends are kind of like, I need to get a job and blah blah. It's like I'm quite privileged to do it, but even then I was kind of like, I don't know, I still wasn't disciplined doing that, but I guess I knew what I wanted to do.
Well, I mean, disciplined enough that you would keep going out there over and over and over.
Yeah,
right?
you're your own boss.
Yes, with a lot of sort of persistence though, like from others, like because even my dad he was like, look, I'm not asking you to get a job, but just please do the thing you can do.
Wow.
Because and I wasn't lazy, but it felt like it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a career in music, but obviously you got to wait for that. So
and then how do you sort of approach that?
How do you kind of get there?
Yeah,
I mean, the reason I was busking was to make money to get in the studio. And as soon as I'm there, I feel like I'm doing the thing I'm supposed to do. Like, no one can get me out of the studio. Like, I'll work harder than anybody, but it's just I want to be within the right thing. And
that's something where you pay hourly?
Yeah. I think I bought like a week in the studio.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like, it's not small money, especially when you're playing in the street. But I did this thing this is interesting, like across all genres. I had been in studios before, and I brought in these songs that I wrote, just me and a guitar, and they lost their way because I was so young, and the producer would kind of be like, well, we should put a bass line on it. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, I guess. and then it would become their idea, and then the drum part would be their idea and the guitar part. And then I'd leave the studio with these songs that had kind of lost their way, that maybe I should have just gone in and played them with a guitar, and it would be an honest thing. And so I got kind of studio phobia for a bit. And so when I went in after busking to make the money, I knew exactly, I knew the violin part, I knew the drum part, I knew everything. So basically it was almost like ticking boxes. I knew what the songs were already going to sound like. So I just wanted to be a sort of...
And you never had necessarily any formal training in school in music composition?
No.
And as far as you knew, the most successful, musician in your life was possibly your cousin.
Yeah. Up until a certain age, I guess. And I pride myself on that, to be honest. The fact that, like, I'm not going out there now playing songs that are like basic musically and like, oh, please everybody just pay attention to the lyrics because that's where all the good is. Like, I want them to be interesting arrangements and compositions and all that. I pride myself on that.
So who do you know business wise that you can trust at that point? Like when you're 17, 18 years old and you're in charge of your career, who can you like partner with?
Yeah, I mean, like I know, like, I've got my managers these days, and I'm very fortunate. But yeah, there's so many moments where I could have been like, oh, okay, you'll be my manager. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And also
because there's no blueprint for it.
Yeah, and especially when you grow up, like when you're sort of coming up in the music industry, there, like, obviously there's so much sort of like so many people being like, be careful, don't sign anything. Be wary of everybody.
Yeah, if you go to the studio, your songs might be co-written by a guy who's just working there.
Of course. Yeah. And like, watch out for like record labels, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but also you got to try and make some sort of progress, right? It's like, and so then the idea of like your friend managing you becomes very appealing because you're like, oh, well, I know you.
Right.
But it's like also you need a good manager. So it's this weird balance, right? It's like you gotta obviously be cautious of everything you expose yourself to in the industry, but also like there's good people too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not all bad.
Also, and this is very dark, but most murders are done by people who know one another.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like
I just wanted to bring some sunshine.
Yeah. I can't imagine being in the place I'm at with like someone I know. I feel like it needs to be someone I can like talk to and kind of like, I don't necessarily want it to be that close.
I remember when I graduated college, I went to school to be a filmmaker, right? And I wrote these scripts and I pitched these ideas, and I had an idea actually that I took to Fox Animation, who did like Ice Age and all these different animated movies, and I had this idea about it. At the time, it was a revolutionary idea. It was actually because all these different companies were doing just like whatever, like one species of animal.
Right.
I was like, let's do a whole bunch and like have it at a zoo. I was like, and all these animals from the zoo will escape and go back to their home country. And they were like, no, it won't work, whatever. And later on, by the way, Madagascar. But that's fine. That's fine. It's just, that tells me that like it's just as good an idea as anyone could do. Fine.
Yeah. Also, fuck Madagascar, right? Yeah.
But and by the way, Fox Animation didn't do it, so it's like whatever. It's just like an idea that anyone could have done.
Yeah.
But I remember at the time I was like, to go pitch this idea in this company that was in my town, I was like, I'll just have my talkative friend come with me. And so I just asked him, I was like, yeah, you're my manager now. And so he came with me to the place, and it was like, he didn't know anything about writing, or he didn't know anything about movies. It was just like, he's talkative, and it just wasn't a realistic thing. But I was like, I need someone who can act like they know more than me.
Yeah. There's certain things that can be so appealing, but you need to just trust that you're probably the right person to carry it. Yeah.
So did you trust yourself?
Yeah, for sure. And it actually, Mihal, the guy I was talking about, the drummer I met in college, he was great to link up with because he was the first person I ever met that was like equally ambitious and equally, like, we were talking about it the other night. It's like we would play, like we would like be the opening act for shows, and we'd be like, how do we, and we wouldn't even talk about it, but there was just this unspoken thing between us where it's like, how do we kind of like make their audience be like, who's that? Like, I want to see them again. Like, they were better than the headliner.
And by the way, that's a thing where it's like, you're the opening act because you're not supposed to be as good as the headliner.
Yeah, for sure. And we had this Yeah, well, we were talking about the other night. We were like, it was borderline kind of aggressive to be like, we want to be like the thing that people leave sort of blown away by. And so, yeah, it just takes an awful lot of patience. I trusted myself too. Yeah, it's funny because like, say we're playing Radio City here next year, and like a lot of the time you're asking me what is not annoying in interviews, but like what kind of comes up all the time. People are always like, can you believe you're doing that? And it's like, well, yeah, like I've been doing it. Like, so like. Because even last night I was at Baby's All Right, and it's like, we did Baby's All Right, then Music Hall of Williamsburg, Irving Plaza, and now 2 more shows, and then
King's Theatre,
and Radio City, and it's just like, yeah, that's a progression. You know?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I know I'm lucky to go bigger room every time and for them to be sold out, but it's not nothing either. You know? Yeah.
So in those moments where you're playing open mics, do you meet anybody who is like on the level or like on the rise and you can see it?
Like same age as me?
Yeah.
Nah, it was all like older people. It was kind of cool. Like it's a bit of both. You would encounter someone who's incredible. There's a guy called Terry Sutton who to this day I don't know where he's gone. He's the best singer I've ever seen.
Wow.
And then there's like, do you know Pirates of the Caribbean? When what's it called? When Will Turner's dad is like on the boat and he's like all shells, he's like part of the boat. That's that's what they remind me of. They're just there permanently, and so those people exist too. But
seeing all that, then like guys who are older who are either talented or just like barnacle ridden. Does that make you afraid of the chances of like if Terry is so talented and you're just like, fuck, like...
Yeah, I'll forever be local.
Oh, right, yeah, like, can that happen? Yeah, and, like, that's a good point because that's a very sort of... You see that all the time with Irish acts. They like, there's Irish acts play stadiums at home and you guys would never have heard of them. And not in a patronizing way, it's just they don't get out of Ireland.
Sure,
it's like, and it's just this thing that gets so contained. So that I think that was my main fear, and I can't even give advice to anybody to be like, oh, here's how I like it. Like you were gonna, like we were talking about Spotify, but it's like there's no one way that I avoided that. I guess I'm just lucky in that sense. And also, like, I'm not trying to discredit myself. Like I probably did it because what I'm doing is culturally relevant and is decent. Like the stuff stays at home because it works only at home. But that was my main fear, maybe, that I would like do well in Ireland and you guys would never hear me.
Right. But you know,
I'm so glad that we
we
were the metric.
But as a child, and you're dreaming of like, you know, like The Hobbit, like going elsewhere and just like the music taking you somewhere else. Where's the first place that you traveled to that you're just like, this is bigger than, you know, where I grew up?
Yeah, true. Like, yeah, I'm trying to think. I remember like the first time I ever traveled for music was Florida.
Really?
Beautiful.
What was in Florida?
This is a good example of how I was willing to just like grab whatever came my way. I was busking in Dublin, and a company, it was an app called Glide, took a video of me and it got 1 million views or something, and I was like, oh wow,
it's up to 5 million now or something like that.
Is it?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like I have 1 million views on video. This is a big deal. Like, let's chase this. And then they were doing this convention in Florida. It was all just like YouTubers and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'll go play at that. And
were you recognized?
Nah. It was like weird. I was like playing at a little booth, and yeah, it was. And then the person running it came over and was like, could you like learn a 5 seconds of a summer song real quick? And I was like, no, I can't do that. So yeah, there's so many moments in my life where I'm just so many moments in my life where I'm just like, no,
right.
Yeah.
By the way, no is such a strong and great word.
No,
yeah,
I'm getting used to it.
Yeah.
Wait, so when that video was taken of you, because that is the jumping off point of everything, I think.
I guess, yeah. But this is funny too. It's like when you busk, and like it's an Ed Sheeran song, and so when you busk, like I was saying, you can guarantee crowds with certain songs, and so that scared me too, because I would do that, say, and then I would notice like my Facebook page and my Instagram kind of would grow quite a lot that day, and people would be like, oh, I saw you playing today, I loved your cover of Thing. And I'm like, well, you're like, when the time is right, you're not going to be a fan of what I do.
Right.
So
did they like that comment?
Yeah, excuse me. I basically, I was just kind of, I didn't want to build the wrong fan base either. Yeah. There's so much of this, it's like, it's good to talk to you guys about it, because there's so much of this I'm able to be like, oh, I'm really lucky to be here. But it's like, it's choices you make too.
Of
right?
course.
Yeah, for sure. When the Glide thing happens, Are you aware that that's going to be like a thing?
The video? No,
Yeah.
I just saw it.
Like-
It got the views, sort of like.
But did somebody like take the video of you like 4-camera setup or whatever, and was just
So yeah, a long time ago, but I think so. Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, we run so and so," and I was like, "All right, cool." Yeah.
So it moves, and people take notice,
Yeah.
and you fly to Florida. Do you feel in that moment that that's the turning point?
Nah, if anything, it was like a red flag. I was like, okay, this isn't it.
because you're still playing songs that are not yours.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah. And
it's like, how do you follow that up?
Yeah. Because you see, like, I again, it was another thing. I was just like, I don't want to blow up off of covers and then be like, oh, by the way, here's my stuff. It's 6 minutes long. Blah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so after that, I got in the studio and then I uploaded songs by myself. I got home. Like, I had zero infrastructure. I didn't have a manager or anything.
Right.
And I got these songs together and I went on TuneCore and put them on all the things by myself.
Yeah.
I didn't expect anything. Here's one. I did it one at a time because at this point we're talking like 7 years of knowing I want to be a musician, and by myself and in a band, with this thing always happened where I'd raise all the money we could, put an EP together or like mini album, get all the artwork, like break our balls doing everything, and then you release it and it's just like nothing. And there's this lovely sort of idea that it might like blow up in some way, and it's like it won't. Like it just, I guess, like it's interesting to me these days. You bring out a song and you see how everything plays out. It's like, well, Spotify are going to place it like here because we have that relationship, blah blah blah, and it's like, very rarely do things happen by magic, you know.
Did you feel like the overhead was a lot? You're just like, it's not just me, it's a band. It's like, going into a studio, I have to actually like get a return on all the money that we put in.
No, I wasn't expecting anything. I was like, at that point, it was still very much like, I'm gonna put some music into the world and see what happens.
Yeah.
I would do a few shows in Dublin a year, and just biding my time, I guess. And it's like, and I for that reason, because it was so deflating to watch projects happen and then die, I put these songs out one at a time because I was like, I don't like.
Right, there's less pressure,
anything, and like I'm super proud of them. So like, hopefully, some people will hear.
And isn't it funny how music is forever, especially now with streaming? That people like once you get
can go
on,
back.
people will find that old music and they'll be like, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah,
and I think Lizzo's a great example of that now with Truth Hurts, which is a song that was
2 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
No way.
Yeah,
Really?
and so
and now it's #1 for the past 7 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
But that thing, I did one song at a time because I was like, I don't need anything from this. I'm proud of it. People who know me will hear it and like it, hopefully, and it might grow. But like, I would say maybe like good example of kind of being at your sort of most defeated before things go good.
What did your parents think when you did get the offer to fly to Florida?
It was all good. I mean, I need to discuss this with them, like, because I think about the fact that they let me do what I do. There was never any pressure to steer me towards being a lawyer or whatever.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And I think about the music I was making when I was like 18, and I'm like, how did they have the foresight to see that this might work?
Yeah.
Because like it wasn't very good, and so I don't know if that was a big moment, but like things like they'll see the show tonight. I feel like things like that are nice celebration.
Yeah.
Of, like, good things happening. But
I
I'm
think,
not sure at what
I think
point
about
did
that
they-
too. Like, our parents would see us doing work when we were doing like YouTube videos, a decade ago, but they saw the potential in it. They saw that we were working and enjoying ourselves, and that there was an end product.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't the best thing in the world, and maybe it would have been. Who knows? But they were just like, oh, we see it, and like as long as you guys have this focus and a vision.
Oh yeah, and maybe it's the most beautiful thing to be a parent and be like, oh wow, they've like found the thing they're passionate about.
Hey gang, it's Jeff here from the podcast. Also Eric's here.
Hey.
And I have a special deal for you here today.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking only to you.
Yeah.
If you go to ItsTheReal.com this holiday season, go to our shop.
Yes. ItsTheReal.com/shop.
We're gonna give you 200 t-shirts for the price of $195.
Wait.
That's right. You buy 200 t-shirts today. We're going to knock it down to $195.
You want to...
For our loyal listeners out there, our fans.
Yeah, if they go to ItsTheReal.com/shop.
The It's The Real family. If you buy 200 t-shirts right now, give you them for a price of $195.
That's nuts.
I know.
Jeff, you've lost it. I don't know if we can handle that.
It's just the small things we do. There's a word in the in the Hebrew language called tzedakah. And that means charity. And if you want to buy 200 t-shirts today, we'll give you the same thing for the price of $195. It's not about us,
Jeff.
It's just about...
Bless your heart.
I don't consider myself a hero.
Yeah, well, agreed. And now back to the podcast. Did you find that your parents did like your music, or?
Yeah, of course. But just like that, I'm like, I don't know how they like. I wondered, did they have chats where they're like, "Is this for real? Like, is this gonna work?" And who knows? I mean, like, yeah, maybe they just saw it for what it was, and maybe they were like, "Let them give it a go, and if it doesn't happen, we'll figure it out."
Yeah. When did things start? Like, was Spotify the thing that really just like
that
set
to
everything
me is
on
turning point?
Yeah.
To me, what like talking about that thing of like Irish musicians staying stuck in Ireland, I feel like that was a huge help for me, because I know artists at home that are so good and would grab an opportunity like with both hands and chase it as far as it goes. But yeah, I feel like my advice to anyone who's like young writing songs trying to do this is like, I feel like there needs to be a moment or something. It's like to just turn it, and that's what it was for me. And like, say, good example might be like that Maggie Rogers Pharrell video. It might have been her moment that exposed her and allowed her to do what she does now so well. And
Maggie Rogers was at NYU, and this very organic opportunity, where she played her own music for Pharrell, went viral and really took off.
Which is a great way for that to happen, because it was like her song.
Yeah, right.
And
it was on video.
Right, yeah.
Which is so good for 2019, but or 2017 or whatever. But so you were just uploading music.
Yeah.
And then Spotify adds you to the weekly Discover playlist.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you have any idea that was happening? Like
No.
Did you have a Spotify account?
Yeah.
No, I still don't.
Shout out to our friends at Spotify.
It's about time they gave me something. But I was playing a show in London, and actually nice way for a turning point to happen, because I guess I was in London like dragging my own piano around and my own guitar and all that, and I was playing a show in a place called the Servant Jazz Quarters, which is like 40 people, and it's a basement basically, and
You had played there before?
Never, nah. I think it was my first time playing in London, and a bunch of people who were there came up to me afterwards, and they were like, "We heard your music for the first time today on this Discover Weekly thing," and I was like, "Oh, interesting. I'll go home and check the algorithm, the algorithm, just the data."
Check the algorithm.
Sorry,
Wait a minute.
Go home and check the mainframe.
The whole house of cards that you've built over the past, just falls apart.
So I went home and I checked like how many plays I got that day, and it had gone from I would get like 5 to 10 plays a day, and then that day it had gotten like 40,000 or something.
Holy shit!
That's a little different.
Yeah, and
is that like getting like $1 million in your bank account by accident? You're just like
this can't be right.
How do you sleep that night?
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Right, because people nowadays be like, "How do you sleep after a show?" It's like, well, I'm doing what I want to do. Those are the nights where I don't sleep, because I'm like, I'm onto something.
Yeah,
now.
right.
So I then Spotify got in touch, and I think the Discover Weekly thing might even be separate to them. I feel like it is an algorithmic thing, and certain songs find their way into this Discover Weekly without, say, someone at like editorial and Spotify even doing it.
Yeah.
And so I think that flagged it for them, and they were like, oh, okay, Dermot Kennedy, blah blah blah, and then.
But how gratifying is that for you? You're like, this is my baby, and it's out into the world
and finding an audience,
and people appreciate it.
Exactly, yeah. It's that like it's sort of that justification after all your patience of being like, oh, now it's exposed to loads of people and it seems they like it, and it's like, oh, so like all that second guessing, you're like, oh, cool, like I wasn't wrong. And,
and thank God that people were listening to it, and then the 30 people showed up to your show.
What turnout, 40,000 plays. But yeah, it was, and then Spotify got in touch and we started talking about all that stuff. But yeah, I feel like, that sort of, I feel like was the start of kind of talking to labels and lawyers and managers and all that. Yeah.
Did that all move like really quickly?
Quite fast, yeah. I remember the guy who was the head of
music.
The president.
Yeah.
I think he was the president of Polydor at the time. which is like twinned with Interscope here. I was sitting at home and he emailed me and he was like, heard your music, I'm coming to Dublin like today. I'm on a flight like right now. I want to talk to you. And I was like, oh God, this is that moment.
Imagine you said no.
I know, yeah. But even now, like that moment, I was like, brilliant. This is the thing. I'm going to do this. Like, great. But you got to be conscious of the fact, like those people know you feel that way. Those people know you're like, oh, record deal. and so we met up and he was like, I'll sign you on your publishing. And then after that, I'll sign you on your records. And I was like, great, happy days. Now, don't get me wrong. I wasn't like, sweet, where do I sign? But I was like, okay, cool. Thanks for that. Interesting to have you like in the pot. And he was like number one person that contacted me, I think. And then he sort of like set up these interviews with lawyers for transparency's sake, because he was like, I don't want to send you to one lawyer because he'll think it's my guy.
Right.
And so I picked a lawyer, and then we were like, okay, cool, let's like take this deal as far as it can go with the lawyer. And then he bailed. The guy offering me the deals bailed, and I was like, oh, okay, that's my first instance of like seemingly perfect thing.
Bailed on you or bailed on the company? Because you said that he's the okay, got it. You said he was the former. Gotcha.
Yeah. He was moving to. He's the head of Sony now, but he bailed on that and was like, I wish you all the best, but it doesn't make sense for me anymore. And I was like, wow, that just kind of, maybe it was like good for me to learn then how quick things can turn around.
Yeah, right.
And how fickle things can be. And
were your numbers still like steady on Spotify?
Yeah, it was
or
growing
just
all
like,
the time.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And so when he bailed, I was left with a lawyer. That's all I kind of had. And I was like, okay, interesting. And so he was like, and then the first port of call then was to set up meetings with managers, and eventually found managers, and we went from there. But like, it was cool because say around this time, I think I was getting like a few million plays a month on Spotify. And so managers were like, well, we don't, like, they were experienced and they were like, we don't need, like, why would you sign with a record label? Like, you're only going to give all your music away and sort of like halt the progress you're already making in a way. And so yeah, we basically we kept doing it ourselves, and the Spotify thing grew because with managers we sort of nurtured that relationship, and Apple Music as well, and it just became a thing where we took it as far as we could take it unsigned, basically. Like,
and that's got to be very empowering.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter how well I ever do. The glory days were when I was like, like 100% of the Spotify income was coming to me, and I was still like just sitting at home every week, and I was like, and it was like, because it's whatever, it's like $5,000 per million plays, and like there was some good times.
Sure.
But
you can hire someone else to carry your piano around.
And like, so Unsigned, we did a show here in New York, we did LA, we played Bonnaroo, and did a little bit of touring, and then basically took it to the point where like, okay, a bus costs $40,000 to have for a couple of weeks. So I was like, okay, I can't do that. So
we played Bonnaroo too, by the way. What was your experience like down there?
A really crazy thing happened when we played Bonnaroo. We were playing, I don't know what stage it was a small stage. Like, this was like where all the gear was in the back of the van. That's when we were doing it. And we were playing, and during one of the songs, we didn't have our own monitors guy. And during one of the songs, the festival monitors guy was trying to talk to the front of house guy, but we were on in-ear monitors, and he didn't bypass us. So the whole conversation happened in our ears while we were trying to sing the song. And so I almost started singing what he was saying, and he was like screaming at the guy because there was a problem. And so while I was trying to play this really chilled out song, there was just this guy screaming in my ears, basically. So, yeah, that was my experience with Bonnaroo, yeah.
Our experience with Bonnaroo started because we were also working the festival. We were like hosting some stuff, and they brought us down like a couple days early, and they said, hey, just so you know, every year 3 people die. We're just like,
yeah, great, thanks. Yeah, nice to be here.
Sweet.
Stay hydrated.
We were
it's
like,
hot, isn't it?
Yeah, we were like 1, 2.
Yeah, no, it was hot. Also, we stayed in these, they have these trailers for talent or whatever.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And so it's camping out, but whatever, you're staying in like a RV or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, this only has so much hot water, from the power source. And they're like, so really pay attention to like how you use it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And Jeff's like, okay.
And the other guy was like, okay.
Yeah. And then Jeff left it on. So we ran out of like hot water like day 2.
1.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So it was a fun experience.
Good festival though.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great festival.
Yeah. Bring us back.
Very, very dusty, by the way. Like because when you ride around on like the
ATVs or
golf
whatever.
carts, whatever, they tell you to wear bandanas because it's super dusty.
Yeah. Coachella's like that too, right? We
Haven't
never
been to
been to
Coachella.
Coachella.
I've never done that mask thing in my life, and there I did it.
Yeah. Well, now it's also fashionable.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
I wear masks for the SARS prevention.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel reliant on Spotify and like the golden teat that is like their promotion?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's funny because nowadays, if I'm asked, like, how do you feel about Spotify, blah, 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 and the fact that it's, like, maybe not enough money that they pay artists. And it's like, yeah, well, true, but also depends on your circumstances, right? Like, for me, I went from making nothing to making some. So I was like, well, that's great. But
also, you had nobody to pay. Like,
Nobody.
because you weren't on a label. And so, like, the label... When Spotify pays the label, then the label takes their cut from it.
Sure, yeah.
You didn't have that.
Oh, no, yeah. And nowadays, it's like... I'm getting way more plays than I ever have, but the label collects all of it and then pays me twice a year, a teeny weeny cut,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, interesting. But, so it's very different, but it's like...
When we were talking about like where you get your mail sent to, I really hope that that's direct deposit. You're not like, checks are going like somewhere and you're like, I don't know.
I'm really struggling.
Do you want to busk outside?
Yeah, imagine. But nah, it was a good time. But yeah, definitely conscious of the fact that like it's only working because they're on side. Yeah.
And so who were the other labels that come around in the second wave?
Yeah. So the reason the process of getting a manager took ages, and in the meantime, since that first guy had come in, everybody came in, and it got to the point where I felt like I was a manager. I wasn't being creative at all. I was like taking calls all day.
Yeah.
Because I had no manager.
Did you have a separate name? Like were you just
Imagine,
you're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I can put you through.
This is Mike. Yeah.
Mike directs you to Terry.
Yeah, whoever.
But I was just taking calls all day from labels and publishers all day. And it's this thing of being like, oh, cool, I'm by myself, but I'm like switched on, so I know what to do. But like looking back, those people know how to conduct those conversations.
Sure.
And how to steer them in a certain way. And like it would happen without me knowing. So like obviously I didn't do anything stupid, but like I felt super smart on the phone. I was like, they're probably getting off the phone being like, why does this guy not have
Did anyone differentiate themselves from another? Or was it all the same? Like
it was quite clear to me. I'm with Island in the UK and Interscope here, and that was easy in the end.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of Island Records especially. I was like, because they had like Hosier and Mumford and Sons, Ben Howard, all that. I was like, this makes sense for sure.
Yes,
and so. Yeah, towards the end, it got quite clear to me.
So it wasn't necessarily you're like, oh, Island, like Bob Marley, like, there's a legacy there. This is about they could see something in you and
for sure, yeah, but definitely like it just felt I went to a certain label and I won't name them, but I went to a certain label and when they were giving me like the final walkthrough of the building and like, please, we love you so much. I think they called me Damien twice, and I was like, oh well, this is crazy.
Different Marley.
Yes.
Yeah, imagine it.
I have two guesses. Was it Death Row? Or
But it was like it was just this. It just becomes quite obvious, and now I see how it works. It's like these people are so busy, and also I think about things like, say, it's so fickle, and so people move and jump ship all the time, and so like if you have an A&R that you allow to kind of steer your career in a certain direction, you might like go there with them and be like, okay, cool, I trust you, and then they might leave,
right?
And you're stuck where they want you to be,
in that sort of purgatory.
Oh, yeah, you gotta be careful.
So you do end up at Interscope, and one person that you did end up working with through them. Was Mike Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And
shout out
so
to Mike Dean.
Did you direct Interscope, or were they like, hey, by the way, we know that you like, Travis and all these other people.
For sure.
Like Kanye means a lot to you, and so
I think they certainly made the connection, and it was kind of this thing of like, okay, well, I had all these songs that weren't necessarily going to be on my album, but I definitely cared about them. And so I went to Mike to put them together, and it was this lovely process too, where it wasn't like, okay, here's this legend, this has to work, like, don't get this wrong. It was just a bunch of music that like we both had fun making, and it was like he's just, and I know it's like easy when someone is that sort of prestigious to come on here and be like, he's so nice, but like he's the nicest.
He really is the nicest. So you, I imagine, went to, he records out of his house.
Yes,
much like we do at our house, except his house is much bigger.
Yeah, has a pool.
Did you enjoy working at his house?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. And like, because definitely when you do these, like, you kind of, there's a process, I think, in music where you do your due diligence of like doing the merry-go-round of like sessions and like, oh, here's so-and-so, they wrote this song, blah,
here's
blah, blah.
Damien,
Yeah.
blah, 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 yeah.
And then you go into the studio and they're listening to your music as you walk in. Yeah. Like, who is this today? And so there's that like merry-go-round of songwriters and blah, blah, blah. And so like I've been in LA for like weeks at a time, and every morning you're like, okay, I gotta go to the studio now. And with him, it was actually exciting.
Yeah. Also, it's not in the morning.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was a huge difference between your writing on your own and collaborating with someone like Mike Dean?
Sure. Yeah. Well, he's not the best example of how I struggled with that, because like, but with other people where people are kind of like, what about this lyric? And I was like, well, what about it? Like, it doesn't, like, how
right
it, and then sometimes like my true self kind of flares up, and I'm like, well, like, who are you to even have an opinion about like what I'm talking about, like it's crazy. And I get it. And sometimes when I'm like more balanced, I'm like, oh, they just want the song to be good. But
sure,
sometimes
so when you record an album in New York, when you record an album in LA, those are very different cities to begin with, but it's also very different from where you first started writing music when you were 11 years old. What does New York do to you? Is there something about the energy? Is it something about the people?
And it's a very cliche thing, right? To be like, it's so vibrant, I'm so inspired. But like, it's true too.
Yeah.
And it was a big choice to make because like having been on tour so much and having traveled for like 2 years with music already, it was very appealing, the idea of going back to Ireland, like to the middle of nowhere for a couple of months and putting a record together. That did sound good to me. But it just made sense for the music. Like, I feel like I would have made a different record if I went home, and it would have been, I don't know, it might have been less interesting or something, would have been more within my comfort zone, I think. And I'm glad it's not. And so it just made sense to kind of come here. And also like Scott Harris, who I wrote a lot of the songs with, is here. Cause, who's in Toronto, it's easy for him, so it made a lot of sense.
Is that one of those things where you're just going to keep going like further and further from where your comfort zone is?
I think so. Yeah, it's fun, right? It's like, I think I was faced with that. Like, I have a song called Closeness, and we wrote it like 3 years ago, probably, me and Carey, and it was an acoustic song, and we had finished it, and he was like, why don't we just try a super, super aggressive program beat on top of this and see what happens? And it felt unreal. It felt so good. And so at that moment, I feel like I was presented with that thing of like, do I go down this way and like, and get out of my comfort zone and try this, or do I stay and just be the guitar guy? And I was like, it was just more fun to do that. Yeah.
While you were here recording your album, did you take the subway?
Yeah, of course, all the time. Yeah.
So you would see buskers in the different like tunnels or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you see anyone that struck a chord with you, so to speak?
It's a different standard for sure.
Yeah,
it's
right.
It's way better. Like people.
I thought you were gonna be like, it's way worse.
Well, no,
really. I've never. Yeah.
There's people who are like phenomenal. There's some people who are like cellists who like
Yeah.
But there's also on 14th Street.
Yeah, there's the guy who sings the Beatles who gets all the lyrics wrong.
And also his guitar is way out of tune.
Oh, but maybe like that's his art, and maybe like just it hasn't found his audience yet.
We don't know.
Yeah.
No, I would see them. It's like, I have so much respect. Like I was saying, for considering how sort of like childish I almost was about the whole busking thing, I have so much respect for people who like grab their stuff in the morning and go and do that all day. I think.
Do you ever play any covers when you're on stage?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
If it's cool. Like the covers I've done now that I have a career, I guess, are like, we did Heartless by Kanye, we did Temptation by Joey Bada, like stuff like that. Because to me, like if I do a Ben Howard cover, it's like I'll never do it as well as he does. Even if I sing it better, it's still not him.
But it's also that you like rearrange it, like your NPR.
Yeah.
And I mean like your the BBC live sessions.
Yeah.
Like that's where you did like some covers, but like
yes.
They're just the way that you rearrange even your own stuff in the NPR Tiny Desk concert is incredible.
Nice one. That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you put that together?
Awkward.
Like you got it was awkward.
Yeah.
Was it early in the morning? What happened? Yeah.
It's awkward because have you guys been there?
No.
It's like
it's so tiny.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it is someone's desk and
wait, is it really? It's a real desk. No,
it's a desk in an office. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's an office, but like.
Right.
It looks like it's a set. It's not like a real desk.
No, it's somebody's desk. Yeah. It's someone's workspace. Yeah.
Every time they're trying to do work, some other like person is there to play 3 songs.
Yeah. And
they move everyone to sort of this.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a little crowd watching you do it, and so it was this thing of like it was very, very awkward because they do this thing of being like, okay, you can do a song again if you want, but obviously there's people here, so like it doesn't look great if you do. And we were like, obviously, yeah. And we would never rerun stuff we normally get it right. And even if it's not right, it's better
right
than
enough.
It's going to be the second time.
Yeah.
But we went to play a song, and our drummer, he had to have these pads on his drums because obviously you can't nail a drum kit in there, and he hit it on the first chorus of a song and the pedal just went through the kick drum.
Oh.
And so I looked around to him afterwards and he was like, we have to do that again. And I was like, okay, fair. And so and then I made a few mistakes, and it's a very it's like at a show, like I'll make a mistake tonight and it'll be fun and it's all good. But like in that environment, you're like, oh no. And then you're conscious of the fact that Tiny Desk is a big deal. And it was just, I didn't enjoy it myself. Yeah, I'd like to do it again.
But it's so good.
Thank you. And I haven't watched it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was kind of.
I also don't watch my own stuff.
Right. I made my peace.
Eric does.
I do. I listen. I listen. I watch. I enjoy the content that we make. It's like, well,
right.
Let me enjoy it again.
Also, we need the views, and so Eric watches.
No. Well, what do you do? Because we've been in this situation too. What do you do when you're playing music for a crowd of people in a studio? Do you watch their reactions or do you look away? Because
close my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
That's what Jeff does. Like I'm like watching all the people. I'm like making sure
really
I'm getting reactions right then and there.
Yeah. I guess a good example of that in music is when you're in those meetings with the likes of Spotify and you're like playing them your album and everyone's just sitting there and after the song they all turn to you for like an explanation of what the song's about. It's real. It can be awkward again, but yeah, I just close my eyes. I feel like over time you develop a certain sort of bedrock of just like I don't care what you think.
Yeah. Well, no, that especially.
Oh no,
sure.
I absolutely care what people think. I'm just terrified.
Yeah.
So are you at a place now where you're so comfortable with your with your projects, with your product, that you don't need validation from other people?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. And when I started getting a fan base, it messed with me lyrically. I was in the studio trying to write one song, and literally I was like up early in the morning working on these lyrics, and I would go back and forth like 100 times, and it was like I was getting in my own way completely. It was like counterproductive. I was like, I would change lyrics and be like, what if that one word isn't okay? Because if you think about like the Kendricks and the Loop, if you ask us, it's like, well, every single word like works with me. Like I love every single word. So surely those guys have like put that amount of care and honed in that much. But then I'd imagine if you delve into it, you guys would know probably like you probably find artists are just like, like not careless, but like I guess they're not confidence.
That I think that's
like,
right.
Also when it comes to like when you're like a career artist that's like putting out bodies of work, it's like not every lyric is the most important. Like it's important to just be creative at all times and just let it go. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, like when you look at someone like Young Thug, who is just like, he's not somebody who obsesses over everything. He's just like, this is how I'm feeling, and it's in the emotion and the delivery of it rather than like the actual words.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I was the exact opposite of that for a little while, because I was like, I'm getting fans here who are latching on to my lyrics, so the lyrics have to be perfect.
Right.
And then I was like, I was slaving over it too much.
Yeah, you can't necessarily concern yourself with the fact that you may change this person's life, based off of like do I put this word in or this word in?
Yeah. Or even just like, coming up with people's Instagram captions.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big one.
Have people tattooed your lyrics?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was the first one recently. Someone got a tattoo of my actual face, and I was like, "Oh, that's different."
Wait, where'd they get it tattooed?
Here
on their face.
Yeah. Replaced to their face.
I always. Do you remember the girl who got Drake's name tattooed across her forehead?
Yeah.
I think about her all the time. I think about her all the
Did
time.
they sue her? Was that a thing?
No. I think she might have sued the tattoo. I mean, I don't think she sued anybody. I think she was like in a bad place. But like, I wonder if she got it removed. Like Drake was pissed.
Yeah.
Drake was so pissed that she got it tattooed on her
because
face.
he didn't want her to
have
live
this
with
tattoo
that.
on her face.
Yeah.
True.
Well,
fair enough. Joe Rogan always says that he gets a load of people get his face tattooed.
Is that right?
He's always kind of like, this shouldn't be a thing.
Oh yeah, you can come in. So now that you've been on the road for 2 years, are you ready to not be on the road?
Great timing, Nathan.
Yeah.
No, I think, to be honest, I think it's when it is when I'm happiest. It's this lovely thing where that's when I'm in like, oh, this is a dream job. I wake up and I get to have this hour and a half at night where I do the thing I'm happiest doing. And that's like also now within an industry where there's so much room for like gimmicks and like the importance of social media and how you can grow your careers in ways that are kind of like not really got anything to do with music. It's like I can get in a room with a bunch of people and do what I do, and because like it's easy for me to be like, okay, I don't do any of the silly stuff, and sometimes like with things like social media you can worry and be like, oh, this person's ahead of me and I'm not doing all this, like I don't go live every day in a selfie thing. It's like, why, like maybe I should start doing that and it'll work. But it's like the gigs and when I'm kind of like feeling my best is because I'm like, oh, these rooms sell out. Like people do care about music still, and I think this is appropriate like across all art forms. It's like it's in podcasting too. It's like we're having a long conversation now, right? And people will listen to it, and so I think hopefully that stuff continues with like literature and stuff, and because stuff is getting stupider all the time.
Oh yeah,
it's like
with all due respect to TikTok, like I like longer form stuff. And
there is some great stuff on TikTok. I'm not on it, but I like to pretend I'm a teen.
Yeah. Are you still on Glide?
Yeah, love Glide.
Oh man, Glide confused me so much.
No.
Wait, what is Glide?
It was like a chat app. I think it was like WhatsApp, but only videos or something. Yeah.
Got it.
It sounds like a Windex.
Right. Yeah.
Are there pockets around the world that are like just surprising to you that are huge fans of yours?
Yeah, like do you have like a big like Brazilian, like come to Brazil?
The classic come to Brazil.
Yeah. That's my favorite Instagram caption.
No, I don't know. We haven't been to Asia yet touring, and everyone says like the nicest place in the world to tour, because obviously like it's different everywhere you go when you tour, and apparently there is the best. But I've been lucky. Like it hit me at the end of the last US tour. We were in Denver, and we played to like 4,000 people, and I was like, "This is crazy!" Like,
where'd you play?
We played the Fillmore.
Right on.
And it's not on this tour, but I can't say things. Anyway, we have plans. And
cool.
I feel like I know those plans.
I know, and I hope those plans
it's pretty blatant, right?
Yeah, I hope those plans.
Yeah.
I hope they're at a place that we've been to recently. Yeah.
Because that place is dope.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty phenomenal.
But basically, just things like that, and it's like. So people are often like, oh, like you were saying, like, what are the moments where people are like, oh, that must be amazing? And it's like, yeah, but also certain things like that aren't surprising because you play that like 5 times. But yeah, when you go to Denver and there's like 4,000 people there and they all know every song, and it's like, oh, this is like, the day's working. You know?
Yeah.
That's the most beautiful thing.
Listen, it could have been you and 30 fans in the basement.
Yeah. I take it.
Is there a piece of you that is still that 11-year-old boy with that guitar?
I think it's important because I kind of talk about it all the time, like the influence of, say, listening to a lot of hip hop, what that has on my music, and how I've kind of found my own space within the industry. But yeah, I still like the reason I love hip hop is because of the storytelling and the lyrics and how honest it is. And so like to me, that's very similar to what David Gray does and what Ray LaMontagne does. It's like, obviously it sounds completely different characters, all that, but it's like it's the same thing when you break it down. And so I still want to be that. I never want to kind of hide behind massive production and arrangement. I think the lyrics are key.
But also, I mean, like, you're somebody who loves hip hop because you are a young guy.
Right.
You know, like, hip-hop is now totally mainstream in a way that it didn't used to be. Like, David Gray wasn't growing up on hip-hop.
True, yeah. And also I think about artists like... I think about if I were to sort of plow ahead and try and do the guy with the guitar thing, like, that's not really a thing these days, right? Like, there was those, like, Pitchfork days, right? With, like, Ben Howard and Fleet Foxes and all that. But, like, I feel like that was when I was, like, trying... And now that I'm kind of like doing it for real, it's not necessarily as much of a thing. So yeah. Like it would be counterproductive, I think, to sort of cling on to that and be like, no, I have to do this because it might not work. You know?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your journey. Congratulations on all your success, and it's nice to put a name to a face and a face on your arm, whatever it is.
Face on your own face.
Yeah. So thanks for coming over, Damien.
Thanks everyone for listening to this new episode of A Waste Time with It's The Real. Jeff, people want to find out more about us. I'm Eric with the curly hair. You're Jeff with the glasses. Together, we are It's The Real, no apostrophe, no spaces. People want to find out more about this podcast. It's called A Waste of Time with It's The Real. Jeff, if people want to find out more about what's going on with us, where can they go?
You can always go to ItsTheReal.com, ItsTheReal.com. Go get that offer of 200 t-shirts for $195. That's just a special deal.
That is a deal.
You can always sign up for our newsletter at ItsTheReal.com. You can always subscribe to our podcast there as well. You can also go to any streaming platform, including this one, the one that you're listening to right now.
So Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever the hell.
Yeah, the thousands of other podcast streaming apps and whiz combobs.
That's the one. Jeff, where can they find us on social media?
You can always go to It's The Real on Twitter, It's The Real on Instagram. That's it.
And see. Yep. Jeff, I said to the internet, hey, give us your best guesses as to who the first guest will be on the 12 Days podcast. And because we're going to be doing a lot of these podcasts, let's not go on forever. Just give me the top 3, the first 3 that have come in right now of the guesses that people think for the first guest coming this Friday the 13th on the 12 Days of podcast.
Okay. Jimmy Brandley, the Infinity Gyms guest, either Tyler the Creator or Funkmaster Flex.
No and no.
Albu Calves from London, said Bun B.
No.
One Fucked Up Mind said Bronson or Alchemist.
No and no.
Oh, yeah, we already went over the 3. I'm going to do one more.
Okay.
Coral Lopez 22 said, I hope it's Smino.
God, it's not.
It's not Smino.
It's not. Jeff, do you want to just tell them who it is?
I do.
Oh, will you tell the people who it is?
Oh, somebody just said Guapdad 4000 returns.
Jeff, what happened to the 3?
Someone just said Davies.
Jeff.
It's Cameron.
It's Cameron. The 12 Days of podcast starts off with Cameron. As always, not for real, for real.
For sure.
We'll see you guys on Friday.
The sun's out, guns